Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Wednesday, July 17th, 2019. Today I'm going to go over last night's baseball games, look ahead to today's games, talk about the trade deadline a little bit, and who I think could be on the move. Maybe I'll throw out some predictions too. Not official predictions. My official predictions I think I'll do on a podcast next week, barring some other random trades, and my best bet of the day. All right. Last night, there were some good games and there were some stinkers. The best game of last night, the Phillies defeat the Dodgers 9-8 on a walk-off double by Bryce Harper. That was his biggest hit as a Philly as they go to 49-46. Dodgers drop to 63-34. Getting the win for Philly was Ranger Suarez. And Kenley Jansen gets charged with the blown save and the loss. Starting for the Dodgers is Walker Buehler, 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. ERA 3.44. Vince Velasquez started for Philly, 4 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. ERA 4.87. Yankees over the Rays 8-3, a huge win for the Yankees. Great bounce back win for them. They're 60-33. Tampa is 56-41. David Hale gets the win, he's 3-0, and Colin Potch the loss, he's 2-3. Ryan Stanek was the opener for the Rays. 2 innings, a hit and a run, a walk, and 3 strikeouts, ERA 3.19. CC Sabathia went for the Yankees, a quality start, 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts, ERA 4.06. Nats over the Orioles 8-1. That was a dud, as most people would have expected. 15-43 on the year. The Nats now. Baltimore drops to 28-66. Austin both the win. Getting charged with the loss for Baltimore, dropping to 0-3 on the year. Asher Wojciechowski. Both 6 innings, 4 hits, and a run, a walk, 4 strikeouts. ERA 4.35. Wojciechowski, 5 in the 3rd inning, 6 hits, 3 runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts. ERA 5.74. Indians over the Tigers, 8-0. Good win for Cleveland, much needed. If you want to stay in the race, you got to beat up on the bad teams. 53-40 on the year. Detroit's 29-61. Nick Goody to win, he's 1-0. Ryan Carpenter to loss, 1-6. Carpenter 3 innings, 7 hits, 7 runs, a walk, and no strikeouts. You're an ugly 9.3. Zach Plesac, 3 innings, no hits, no runs, a walk, and the strikeout. You're 3.56. They pulled him because it was a rain delay in the game. Blue Jays over the Red Sox, 10-4. A brutal loss for the Boston Red Sox, who dropped to 51-44 on the year. Toronto is 36-60. Getting the win for Toronto, improving to 1-1 on the year. Justin Schaefer. Andrew Kashner gets the loss in his Red Sox debut. He drops to 9-4. Starting for the Blue Jays last night was Jacob Wazikpak. 4 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. ERA 5.93. Kashner 5 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. ERA 4.09. Marlins over the Padres 12-7. Miami's 35-57. San Diego 45-49. Jordan Yamamoto the win 4-0. Logan Allen the loss 2-2. Yamamoto 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. ERA 1.59. Logan Allen 2 in the 3rd inning, 7 hits, 7 runs, 3 walks, no strikeouts. ERA 7.08. Diamondbacks over the Rangers 9-2. Diamondbacks 48-47. Texas 50-45. Alex Young to win 3-0. Lance Lynn the loss 12-5. Young 5 in the 3rd innings, 3 hits, an earned run, a walk, 4 strikeouts. ERA 0.96. That's incredible. Lance Lynn 6 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, a walk, 6 strikeouts. ERA 3.87. Cubs over the Reds 4-3 in 10 innings on a walk-off homer by Kyle Schwarber. 51-44 on the year. The Cubs are playing a little better. Cincinnati 43-49. Steven Chiswick the win, he's 3-5. Raisel Iglesias lost 2-8. Iglesias has had a bad year this year. If I don't know if anybody's noticed that. Getting the start for the Cubs last night was Alec Mills, 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, a walk, 6 strikeouts. ERA 4.5. Anthony DeSclafani 5 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, a walk, 4 strikeouts. ERA 4.29. Brewers over the Braves 13-1. 49-47. That was a huge win for Milwaukee. And Atlanta drops to 58-38. Brandon Woodruff the win, 11-3 on the year. Bryce Wilson the loss, 1-1. Woodruff 6 2/3 innings, 5 hits, an earned run, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. ERA 3.53. Wilson, 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout ERA 6.75. Mets over the Twins 3-2. The Twins should have won this game. They had bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth against struggling closer Edwin Diaz, but they didn't get the job done. Mets go to 43-51. Minnesota 58-35. Luis Avalon gets the win. He's 2-0. Michael Pineda to loss 6-5. Edwin Diaz gets his 21st save of the year. Steven Matz went for the Mets. 4 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk, 2 strikeouts, ERA 4.87. Pineda 6 innings, 6 hits, an earned run, no walks, 3 strikeouts, ERA 4.38. Royals over the White Sox 11-0. The Royals are 34-62. The White Sox dropped to 42-49. George Sparkman the win 3-5. Dylan Cease the loss 1-1. Sparkman with the complete game shutout, 5 hits, a walk, and 8 strikeouts. ERA 4.54. Dylan Cease 6 innings, 8 hits, 4 earned runs, a walk, 7 strikeouts. ERA 5.73. Pirates over the Cardinals 3-1. Pittsburgh goes to 45-49. St. Louis drops to 47-46. Francisco Liriano to win 4-1. Carlos Martinez lost 2-1. Felipe Vasquez gets his 21st save of the year. Starting for Pittsburgh was Dario Agrazal. 6 innings, 5 hits, an earned run, 3 walks, no strikeouts. ERA 2.45. Jack Flaherty 7 innings, 3 hits, an earned run, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. ERA 4.41. Giants over the Rockies 8-4 in 10 innings. San Francisco's playing great. They are 46-49 on the year. So is Colorado. I can't believe they're tied now. That's crazy. Will Smith gets the win 3-0, although he blew the save in the 9th inning, giving up 2 homers. Wade Davis the loss 1-4. Drew Pomeranz 5 innings, 3 hits, an earned run, a walk, 4 strikeouts, ERA 6.1. Peter Lambert 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts, ERA 6.06. Angels over the Astros 7-2. That's 5 in a row for the Angels, who improved to 50-46. Houston drops to 59-37. Noe Ramirez gets the win 4-1. Hector Rondon the loss 3-2. Heaney 4 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, ERA 5.09. Rondon 2/3 of an inning, 5 hits, 6 runs, a walk, and a strikeout, ERA 4.79. Yikes. Athletics over the Mariners 9-2. The A's are 54-41. Seattle 39-49. Daniel Megden the win 5-1. Marco Gonzalez the loss 10-8. Megden 7 innings, 4 hits, an earned run, no walks, 3 strikeouts, ERA 4.21. Gonzalez 6 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, a walk, 5 strikeouts, ERA 4.48. Today's games at 1 o'clock, you have the Mets and the Twins. Jason Vargas and Martin Perez. 1:15 Pirates Cardinals. Chris Archer and Daniel Ponce de Leon. 2 o'clock Braves Brewers. Dallas Keuchel and Chase Anderson. 2:20 Reds Cubs. Sonny Gray and Yu Darvish. 3 o'clock Giants Rockies. Sean Anderson and John Gray. Mariners Athletics 3:30. Eric Swanson and Homer Bailey. Bailey making his debut for the Athletics. 7 o'clock ESPN Rays Yankees. Yanni Chirinos, Domingo Germán. This is an easy pick. New York's going to win this game. Domingo Germán has been excellent since coming off the injured list. Pitched very well against the Mets and pitched very well against Toronto in that first game back from the All-Star break. He really looks like that 4-game regression before his injury had to do with the injury. So I really like Domingo Germán to pitch very well tonight, give the Yankees some length, which their starters are notoriously known not to do. And the Rays bullpen really has collapsed in this series. So give me the Yankees to go up 7 games on Tampa Bay after their big win from last night. Dodgers Phillies. You have Kenta Maeda, Nick Pivetta. Nats Orioles. Eric Feed and going for Baltimore, Aaron Brooks. Tigers Indians. Stephen Turnbull and Mike Clevenger. Blue Jays Red Sox. Aaron Sanchez and Eduardo Rodriguez. Padres Marlins. Chris Paddock and Trevor Richards. 8 o'clock, Diamondbacks, Rangers, Robbie Ray and Jesse Chavez. 8:15, White Sox, Royals, Ivan Nova and Daniel Duffy. And 10 o'clock, Astros, Angels. Angels going for 6 straight. Garrett Cole against Felix Pena. It's going to be a tough task for the Angels to win 6 straight with Cole going tonight. The trade deadline is 2 weeks from today. A lot of teams are either rising to the point that they could be an unexpected buyer, like potentially the Angels. Let's see how these next few weeks are going, but right now I put them at a hold. And teams that are collapsing, like the Colorado Rockies, that are suddenly a seller. So today I'm just going to go through every team and see what I think they should do and I think they could possibly do. I'm going to do my predictions either early next week or maybe the end of this week if I get some other things done. All right, we'll start in the AL East. We'll start with the Yankees. They're in first place. I think that they should go out and get an ace pitcher to put themselves over the top. Madison Bumgarner, to me, would be the perfect fit in pinstripes. He'd fit anywhere that is darn close to breaking the field away from everyone. No way he goes to the Dodgers. I put that at 0 because no way Farhan Zaidi trades with his former team. So I would cross the Dodgers off. I think if he ended up on New York, Houston, the Cubs, the Braves, any of those teams I think can be put over the top. I'd put some cash on one of those teams to win the World Series if Bumgarner were to land with one of those teams. So I think Bumgarner would be the perfect fit on the Yankees. I think Trevor Bauer would fit well too. Although he has some antics on Twitter and whatnot, and his personality may not fit to New York, and he needs to tone it down a little bit with the antics if he were to come to New York, in my opinion. That's my only fear with Bauer. He has a 3.81 ERA in the playoffs, which isn't sexy. Matt Boyd, he's having a career year, but I'm not convinced that he would pitch this well in New York. We saw it happen with Sonny Gray a few years ago, and I don't think the Yankees want to relive that experience again, getting a small market pitcher that's had good stats that really wasn't meant for New York. Mike Minor's on the market. We'll get to Texas in a little bit, but I don't know if he would be the answer for the Yankees either. He's having a career year, but I think he's due for some regression, especially if he were to end up on the Yankees. And I think his ERA would go up maybe a whole run or two in Yankee Stadium. So I'm not convinced that he's the answer. And in terms of relief help, if Dellin Betances doesn't come back, I can see them going out and getting a reliever, maybe Will Smith of San Francisco or somebody of that nature. I don't think they'll overpay for Felipe Vasquez of the Pirates, but maybe, you never know. But I think they want to get another reliever just in case, for an insurance, in case Betances isn't 100%. And I think their offense add was Edwin Encarnacion, who was traded here about a month ago and has started off poorly, but really has picked it up of late. I do expect Edwin Encarnacion to keep it up and help the Yankees win some ball games. So I think that was a good ad for the Yankees, even though he struggled early. And it's okay. Everybody has slumps. Especially after a trade sometimes. You need to get used to playing in a new city and whatnot. But I think he's fine now, and he's fit in very nicely with the Yanks. So I think that they need a starter, preferably an ace, and a reliever. Now we'll talk about the Boston Red Sox, who are in third place in the division. They got their starter that they needed in Andrew Kashner. He's going to be their number 5 starter. Evaldi goes from the rotation to the bullpen to be their closer, but I think that's a mistake. I think that they should go out and get a real closer. Like, they should have brought back Craig Kimbrell. But I think that his postseason last year scared them off, and they saw that he was a pitcher in decline, so they passed on him. And they don't have the farm system to go out and make a monster move for somebody like a Felipe Vasquez or somebody like that either. So it should be interesting to see what they do. Maybe they try to get an offense upgrade, maybe at first base. They get depth and move Mitch Marlin to the bench. But they really like Mitch Marlin, so I really cannot see them getting a first baseman. And obviously they love Michael Chavis and kept him off limits in all these trade talks. And he really has emerged as a real piece for that ball club. The Tampa Bay Rays should be all in. All in. They have the best farm system in baseball, and this is their window to win. And who knows how long they'll be good competing with the Yankees and the Red Sox for division titles. So if I'm them, I wouldn't move Wander Franco because that kid's special. I wouldn't move Brendan McKay either because I think he's going to be special potentially. But anybody after that, I would move to try to get one more piece in there to put themselves in a position where they can go on a run, and preferably they need a bat. Edwin Encarnacion would have been the perfect fit. They wouldn't have had to give up much to get him, but no, they're cheap, and that's what should frustrate Rays fans, that this franchise is cheap and won't overpay. I think they should go out and try to make a move for a bat, but my question is, who is that bat? It preferably should be a first baseman. Jose Abreu would be a nice fit there in Tampa Bay. So first base DH is where I'd be if I'm Tampa Bay. I think you're fine at catcher with the Zunino, d'Arnaud platoon. Outfield's fine with Kiermaier, Pham, and Meadows. You have Willie Adames, who hasn't lived up to expectations, at shortstop. And then at third base, right now they have that kid Rousseau, who really has been a revelation for them. Jai-Man Choi's been a revelation. They have a bunch of revelations on their team. But I think the Rays need to realize that they're revelations and they need real players. So Rays should be all in. That's a team, in my opinion, that's under some pressure at the deadline, or else they're not going to make the postseason. I do think they'll make the postseason because I do think they'll ultimately land a bat, but I don't think it'll be the big bat that I think that they desperately need. And I think that the Yankees are just so much better than the Rays, to the point where I think that Tampa, I think, would be a wise bet to host the American League wild card game. The Blue Jays are a clear seller. Marcus Stroman's going to be on the move. I think the Yankees would be an interesting fit. Houston, the Dodgers, if they decide to upgrade their rotation, but I don't think they'll go that route because I think they like their top three with Buehler, Kershaw, Ryu, and then Rich Hill as their fourth guy. So I don't think they'll go that route and try to improve their rotation. So I'd cross the Dodgers off in terms of acquiring a starting pitcher. I'll get to the Dodgers in a minute, but Stroman's going to be on the move. Justin Smoke's somebody that would help Tampa Bay, by the way. Randall Grichuk, I think, could be on the move. I think anybody on that team could be had except for Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Kevon Biggio and a few other guys. I think they like Danny Jansen. I think they think he's the catcher of the future, so I think they'll keep him. I think they want Bo Bichette to be up at some point this year to help them and give that fan base some more hope. I think Aaron Sanchez can be had. Ken Giles is certainly on the block. So we'll see with them. The Baltimore Orioles are another obvious seller. I wonder if Trey Mancini could be a surprise name being moved. To me, Trey Mancini isn't a building block. To me, he's somebody that could be a good fit on a team that is trying to win as like a role player. I know he was a Rookie of the Year finalist in his rookie year, and people thought that he could have been a franchise type of player, but he's not. He's more of like a role player to me. But he's solid, don't get me wrong, but I think a team that could use some outfield help that needs it. I mean, Trey Mancini would be somebody that could help him, or DH type of role. So I do think that he's somebody that could be on the move. I just can't think of the right destination for Trey Mancini. I wonder if Baltimore will try to move John Means. I'm not sure if his value is going to be any higher. He's having a career year for the Orioles, and he's somebody that really has helped them in terms of finding pieces. So I wonder if they'll move him. I'll tell you what, Chance Sisco is going to be traded within the next year because of the arrival of Adley Rutschman, but that's not going to be enough for another year or two. But they're not trading Chance Sisco this year, but I think Chance Sisco is going to be on the move next year. And that's just a random prediction. American League Central. The Twins, who are in first place right now, was surprising by some folks in first place. I know a lot of people picked them to win the division before the year, and a lot of people were predicting the demise of the Indians. But the Indians really haven't demised. They've been on a great run lately to at least make the AL Central somewhat interesting. And they're right in the thick of the wild card race. We'll get to the Indians in a minute, but the Twins to me need two pitchers. They need an ace and they need a good innings eater type of. Mike Minor would be a great fit on the Minnesota Twins. Mike Minor. I think that's the best fit for them. Maybe Zach Wheeler, that would be another interesting fit. If they want to go big, Madison Bumgarner to me would be a great fit. I think he'd be rejuvenated on the Twins and give that fan base and that team some life. Although the Twins have really had life all year, but I mean in terms of going on a big run to the World Series, I think Bumgarner would really help them. I don't see them going for Trevor Bauer because I don't see their ownership trading within the division. Maybe Robbie Ray of the Diamondbacks would be an interesting fit. Stroman would be good on Minnesota. I think they're okay in terms of offense. Jason Castro's had a good year. Miguel Sano's been fine. Buxton's been fine. Eddie Rosario's hurt right now, but I think he'll be back and he'll help the Twins. Nelson Cruz has been a great addition. He's been hot of late, so I don't think they need any help offensively. And the other thing the Twins need help is their bullpen. I think that, other than their starting pitching, is a huge weakness for them and is why I cannot see them winning a postseason game, let alone a postseason series for the life of me. They need some bullpen help, and they need two starters. That's a team under immense pressure at the deadline. They have a great farm system, too. I don't think they'll trade Royce Lewis because I think they think he's the shortstop of the future. But anybody else, to me, could be had. The Cleveland Indians, I think, will possibly be doing both buying and selling. I think that the Yankees are a perfect match for Cleveland, for Trevor Bauer. I think that the Yankees could land Bauer and give up Clint Frazier to Cleveland, and Cleveland is in dire need of some outfield help. And even if they trade Bauer, they still have a solid rotation of Corey Kluber once he comes back, Danny Salazar, Carlos Carrasco once they come back, Mike Clevenger's back, Shane Bieber. That's a solid five. Very, 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 very solid. But we'll know if Cleveland is really trying to go for it or not. If they keep Trevor Bauer, they're going for it. And if they trade Trevor Bauer, they don't think they're as good. That's their indicator, even if they do add some pieces. I've heard them linked to Detroit's Nicholas Castellanos. I think he'd be a fine fit in Cleveland. Ray Mancini, that's a perfect team for him, Cleveland. I think he'd fit right in left field for them as a nice bat in their order and play solid defense in left field. So that's an interesting fit. David Peralta of the Diamondbacks would be a good fit on Cleveland. Yasiel Puig, if the Reds decide to sell, we'll get to them in a second. So there's some interesting fits. And then Brad Hand is somebody that I think Cleveland has a chance of moving. It's funny, that'd be 2 years in a row where Brad Hand gets traded for a potentially monster haul. Obviously, they gave up Francisco Mejia for him. That might look bad in the future because I think Mejia could be a franchise catcher, potentially. Although Roberto Perez has had a career year for Cleveland, but I think he's due for some regression. So, should be interesting to see what they do with both Brad Hand and even Adam Simber, who they also got in that trade with the Padres last year. The Chicago White Sox are sellers. I think they'll trade Alex Colomé and they can get a nice haul for him. Jose Abreu, I think, is in a contract year, so maybe they'll try to get out from under him. Don't forget about Andrew Vaughn, who they drafted this year. I think they think he's the first baseman of the future, so I don't think Jose Abreu's in their long-term plan, so maybe now's the time to move him. So keep an eye on that one. Another guy that I think could be had on the White Sox is a guy that's having a good year, John Jay. Or not a good year, but like he could be like a pinch runner for somebody off the bench and whatnot. Tigers are in obvious sell mode. Matt Boyd, I think it'll take a big haul to get him. I don't see the Yankees overpaying and throwing in like Clint Frazier and Estevan Florial and Thairo Estrada, Domingo Germán, and giving up the whole farm for Matt Boyd. Because I think that the Yankees like some of those players. I think they want to move Clint Frazier. I think that's the worst kept secret within the Yankees right now. But like I just don't see them giving up so much for a guy that really hasn't done anything in the postseason or really in his big league career. He's just been stuck on a bad Tigers team the last few years. So I think the Yankees would give him a hard pass. I think a team that could overpay for Matt Boyd is the San Diego Padres. They're obviously a National League team and a team that has a ton of prospects to deal. So maybe they pull it off if they decide to be a buyer. And you have the Kansas City Royals, who are also in sell mode. They already traded away Homer Bailey and Martin Maldonado. I think that guys like Whit Merrifield could go. Jorge Soler, I think, would take a big haul. I think he could go. I think that they want to build around Hunter Dozier and Adalberto Mondesi. And I feel like everybody else could be had. I think Salvador Perez will be moved next year's deadline. If he was healthy this year, I think he would have been moved for sure. I think somebody would have overpaid to get him for sure. And back to the Tigers minute, I mentioned Nicholas Castellanos before. I think he could be had. I don't think they want to get off of Miggy because Miggy Cabrera is a guy that they really love and pretty much a Tiger for life. But we saw them get off of Verlander surprisingly a few years ago, and we all know how that played out for the Astros, who I'll get to right now, actually, who are going to be a buyer. They want a starting pitcher to go with Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander in their rotation. They need more starters. I think that I could see them getting after a good starter and then like a mediocre depth piece type of guy. They've missed Lance McCullers this year. Guys that they've expected big things from really haven't panned out. Forrest Whitley's not up yet, and he really hasn't been good in AAA this year. I think they expected too much from Josh James. He's been a disappointment. Corbin Martins showed flashes, but I don't know if he's the answer. So I can see them overpaying to get somebody like a Madison Bumgarner or a Trevor Bauer and giving up Kyle Tucker in the process. That's another interesting Indians fit. Kyle Tucker would be a good piece to come back in a Trevor Bauer deal. We were talking about Clint Frazier before. Kyle Tucker, I think, is a guy that the Astros should dangle in the trade, although I think they like him a lot. But he really wasn't impressive in his short big league stint last year. And I think Yordan Alvarez is a franchise guy potentially. So I can see them moving off of Kyle Tucker. And I think they want to keep Forrest Whitley, and he's just having a bad season this year. So I think he's off limits too in terms of trades. But I think that there's a chance they land 2 starting pitchers, and I think 1 more bullpen piece would help them as well. The Oakland Athletics have been playing great baseball, and they haven't really gotten much out of Chris Davis this year. He's had a bad year. Matt Chapman, Matt Olson have been great. They went out and got Homer Bailey. I can see them going out and getting another starter potentially and maybe a reliever. They have a deep farm system. They actually gave away their 17th ranked prospect to the Royals to get Homer Bailey, and I think that's a nice get for KC in terms of their farm system. He would get into like their top 15 of their farm system because their farm system's a little weak and Oakland's is pretty good. So I could see Oakland going out and getting potentially 1 more starter and maybe a reliever. And good on the Athletics because they really have turned their season around. They got off to a slow start. I thought they could have been a seller, but they're right there in the wild card race. The Texas Rangers, it looks like they're going to be a seller. And it looks like that Mike Minor and maybe even Lance Lynn could be on the move. I don't think they'll trade Joey Gallo. Because I just think that they want to be good in their new stadium next year. And at the same time, John Daniels knows what he's doing. And if they trade Mike Minor, I think that says a lot about how the Rangers think that they feel that Mike Minor's first half was a fluke. So keep an eye on that. Another one that to keep an eye out for is the Los Angeles Angels to see what they do. They've won 5 in a row. I put them at hold right now. But if they have a bad week, they could flip to sell, and they can trade some pieces away like Cole Calhoun, maybe, and some of the pitchers they have. What's unfortunate is if, say, they were a seller, I think that Tyler Skaggs would have been in demand. And it's just unfortunate, and that's why this rallying cry with the Tyler Skaggs thing, I think it'd be tough for the Angels to sell. So I'm against the Angels selling. But Billy Epler, their GM, knows what he's doing. And I think that fan base would be really, really upset if that team sold, especially after the passing of Tyler Skaggs. So I think that the Angels are going to hold, and if they go on a nice run here, maybe even be a buyer. And if the case for the Angels being a buyer, say they win a couple more games in a row and get within 3 of the wild card in the American League and jump the Rangers and jump Boston and some other teams, and they go out and trade for a couple bullpen pieces and a bona fide ace. I saw a bold prediction on Sports Illustrated saying that they would trade for Madison Bumgarner and include Joe Adell in the deal. If the Giants were to get Joe Adell in that deal, it'd be a major win. But I just don't think the Angels are going to go that far. I think that their slow start eventually will come back to haunt them. I think they're a hold right now, but they're a bad week away from being a seller. But it's just an unfortunate situation with the Angels right now. The Mariners are an obvious seller. They already traded away Jay Bruce and Edwin Encarnacion. Ronias Elias could be next. No way they trade Mitch Haniger or Marco Gonzalez. Gonzalez has had a bad year, but I don't think they'll move him. I think they look at him as an ace of the future type of guy. Kyle Seager's interesting. I wonder if they'll move off of him. I wonder if they can move off of Dan Vogelbach, who's having a career year this year. I think they can get a haul for Daniel Vogelbach. I don't know if they'll do it, but I'm just throwing it out there as a what if. National League East. The Braves are interesting. They need another pitcher. They need another ace to go with Dallas Keuchel. To me, Keuchel's not an ace. Keuchel, to me, is more of a number 3 or number 2 guy at this stage of his career. I think that's the perfect match for Madison Bumgarner. And Atlanta can flip him a couple pitchers. I don't think Kristen Pache would be involved in the deal, but if he was, then the Giants will jump all over it. I think that's one of the more likely destinations for Mad Bum. Like I said, they have the pitching depth. They have a couple other prospects they can ship over to San Francisco for him. And I just like the fit there with him in Atlanta in that big ballpark. So I wouldn't rule that out. I think they're set offensively. They won't upgrade that. I think their move was getting those veterans in the offseason with Josh Donaldson and Brian McCann. And I think they need another reliever too. I wonder if they can get a Bumgarner and Will Smith in a package together. That would really do the Braves some wonders. The Washington Nationals are a team that's on the come right now. They're playing good baseball and played themselves in the buyer's mode. And now people can stop talking about Max Scherzer being traded. They need, in my opinion, like a back-end starter, like an Andrew Kashner type, although Kashner was moved to Boston. That would have been a nice fit, Andrew Kashner in D.C., but I don't think Peter Angelos would trade with the Nationals. That's just my opinion. They wouldn't trade with them. So a guy that I think could be interesting on the Nats could be somebody like a Robbie Ray. Like, that would just give them murderer's row. Like, with Strasburg, Corbin, Scherzer, and Robbie Ray, like, that would just be not fair to Atlanta or whomever has to face them in the postseason series. But I don't know if they'll go that far. Their farm system isn't as good as it was a few years ago with Juan Soto and Victor Robles graduating into the big leagues. And they traded a bunch of good prospects away for Adam Eaton. So I really don't see them going big fish hunting per se. I could see them going after Mike Minor. That'd be a good Mike Minor team, the Nationals. I think he'd be a good fit there, although that ballpark's kind of small. I like the Minor fit on Minnesota better than the Twins. The Nationals, despite adding Fernando Rodney, need some bullpen help. I don't see them overpaying for Felipe Vasquez. Maybe if Bumgarner and Smith don't go together, I can see Smith in D.C., Alex Colomé, Tony Watson. I wonder if the Reds would be willing to deal David Hernandez away. That's a one to keep an eye on, too. So keep an eye on the Nats in terms of relief health and a number 4 starter. The Philadelphia Phillies got a big win last night. Will that motivate that team and turn their season around? I think it's to be determined. Let's see how they do against the Dodgers these next 2 nights. And they're either going to buy or hold. I don't see them selling at all because they're right there in the wild card race. And they went out and signed Bryce Harper this offseason. I know that ownership wants to win now. Gabe Kapler, in my opinion, is the manager on the hottest seat. And arguably that includes Mickey Callaway, too, who's obviously on the hot seat. I think that team's under pressure to win now. They need a couple pitchers. I think they need an ace to go with Aaron Nola. Madison Bumgarner would be a great fit in Philadelphia. And I think he could push them over the top, potentially, especially if they also can get Will Smith in a package with him. So to me, the Phillies could use 2 starters and 2 relievers. David Robertson really hasn't been heard from this year. So 2 relievers and 2 starters for Philly. 1 ace and then 1 good / average starter, like a Mike Minor type would fit. Lance Lynn in Philly would be interesting. Maybe somebody like John Gray, even though I'm not sure that the Rockies are going to sell him off or not. He's been talked about in trade rumors before, so keep an eye on that one. So another team is obviously the Mets. They're going to be a seller. We know that. Zach Wheeler's hurt right now, so that hurts his trade value big time. I still think they're going to move him, but they're not going to get the package they'd like. That would be another interesting Philadelphia-Philly. It's funny. The Mets would trade with the Phillies, but not the Yankees. And the Phillies are in their own division. That just shows that the ownership of the Mets are just stupidly obsessed with the Yankees and wouldn't even go near them because they're afraid that Noah Syndergaard, God forbid Jay Bruce from a few years ago, would thrive in pinstripes. Get over it. You take the best package available. If the Yankees sent you a Godfather offer for Jacob deGrom that included Miguel Andujar, Clint Frazier, Estevan Florial, and you pass on it because it's the Yankees, come on. They're not trading Jacob deGrom. I just use that as an example of how stupid the Mets ownership and front office is and how they demand they not trade with the Yankees. So Zach Wheeler, I think, could be had. I think Milwaukee, Minnesota could be fits for him. Maybe even Philly as a number 3, 4 type of starter. Noah Syndergaard's name is thrown out there now that this injury happened to Wheeler. I think Houston would be an interesting fit for Thor. I think if the Mets got back Kyle Tucker in a deal, that'd be a win for them. Or even J.B. Bukauskas, I think, would be a win for them. I think that guy could be a middle rotation arm in the future. I don't see them giving up Forrest Whitley for Syndergaard. That would be too much, in my opinion, if I were Houston. Giving up all 3 of him, Bukauskas and Tucker, I think that'd be a little bit of an overpay. But we'll see. Edwin Diaz is interesting. He's had a terrible season, but I still think that the Mets can get something for him. I don't think they'll trade him, but it's just worth having a conversation, you'd think. And last but not least in that division, the Marlins, they're awful. They'll trade Neil Walker. I don't see anybody touching Starlin Castro's contract. I can see people acquiring about Brian Anderson, who's having a career year for the Marlins. I can see teams acquiring about their young, controllable pitching. But I don't think they'll trade any of those young pitchers like Jordan Yamamoto or any of those guys, Zach Gallen. I don't see it at all. I think they want to build their rotation around those guys. And obviously Caleb Smith, who's having a fine year. I don't see them trading any of their core guys, but I can see Castro potentially, and obviously Curtis Granderson is going to be on the move, I would say, with Neil Walker. Any veterans on the Marlins, I think, are for sale for sure. NL Central, the Chicago Cubs, I think, need a pitcher, and they need a few relievers, too. I think they're set offensively with what they have. They went out and got Martin Maldonado. I don't love that trade. He's a good defensive catcher, but he can't hit a lick. But I think he'll help the Cubs defensively, for sure, with the injury to Wilson Contreras. So he would be a solid backup catcher for them down the stretch once Contreras comes back. And then they're set in the infield with Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, and, well, right now it's Addison Russell. But I don't think the Cubs are in love with Addison Russell long term. He really hasn't lived up to expectations. Ben Zobrist, I think you won't be heard from for the rest of the year. Jason Hayward's had a career year for the Cubs, and his best season probably since he was a Cardinal back in, I think it was 2015. Kyle Schwarber's having a good year for them. And Alberto Mora Jr. has been hot and cold. I wonder if Ian Happ will be used as a trade piece for them to go get a reliever that's really good or a starter that's really good. I don't see them getting Madison Bumgarner to the Cubs, but it's not inconceivable, especially if they want to try to win now and put a little pressure on Joe Madden and whatnot. They have a good rotation. Cole Hamels, John Lester, who are on and off. Hamels been a much better acquisition for the Cubs than I would have expected. John Lester's hot and cold. Jose Quintana's been a disappointment. Yu Darvish has been a huge disappointment. So that's the case for them getting another starter. And if they were to get Madison Bumgarner, they'd be my pick to win the World Series. I think he is that big of a difference maker potentially if he's on a new team. And so I could see them going after like an ace or a number 2, 3 type of starter. Robbie Ray would be an interesting Cub. But I don't know if they want to overpay for somebody like that because they are getting haunted right now by giving up Eloy Jimenez for Jose Quintana. So, and the other thing is that they trade away Mike Montgomery. I think that makes the Maldonado deal really bad. Mike Montgomery's had a bad year this year, I get it, but he's somebody that's really helped them over the last couple of years and given them some good innings. So maybe they go out and get another pitcher. So maybe they're just using that piece to try to go out and get another piece. So you never know. Maybe they use Addison Russell and Ian Happ as trade pieces to get something and some of their prospects as well. The St. Louis Cardinals are not playing well right now. They're, to me, a team on hold. They're a bad week away from being a seller. But if they were a seller, they'd have some interesting trade pieces, that's for sure. Maybe Matt Carpenter, but he's on the injured list right now. I don't think they'd move Marcell Ozuna. It's sad because Paul Goldschmidt was brought in to be the final piece for them. He has not had a good year this year. Me and Derek talked about that on yesterday's podcast. So, I don't see the Cardinals being a seller because they're the Cardinals. But it's a question worth asking in a week from now if they have a bad week here. The Brewers are another team on hold. I think that's a bad week away from being a seller type of team, too. They're not going to obviously trade Christian Yelich or anything like that. But say they fall out of it, maybe they move somebody like a Jesus Aguilar to a team like Tampa Bay that needs first base / DH production or something like that. But on the flip side, for the Cardinals and the Brewers, if they were to be buyers, I think the Cardinals need some relief help. I think their starting pitching is solid. I think they can use one more bat off the bench. Brewers absolutely need a starting pitcher. They might need 2. Madison Bumgarner would be an amazing fit in Milwaukee. I think Zach Wheeler would be a very good fit in Milwaukee. Marcus Stroman would be a good fit in Milwaukee. Robbie Ray, any good pitcher I think Milwaukee can use. They're in a similar situation as Minnesota, and they also need bullpen help because of the regression of Josh Hader, which is shocking to me. I think he's just been overused by Craig Counsell. So they obviously need some bullpen help as well, Milwaukee. The Cincinnati Reds are a team that is in a bit of a free fall. I think they're going to sell. Yasiel Puig's in a contract year. I think they'll possibly move him. I think Cleveland would be a great fit for Puig. So keep an eye out for Yasiel Puig in trade rumors. Another guy that I think could be out on the Reds, potentially, is Tanner Roark, who's having a good year. I wonder if they'll flip Sonny Gray again. That would be really weird if Sonny Gray's traded for the second time in this calendar year. I wouldn't put it past the Reds because he's having a good bounce-back year, and I think that they can get more for Sonny Gray now than what they given up for to get him from the Yankees. So keep an eye on that one. The Pirates are playing well right now, and that's the case against them selling, but they're a bad week away from being a seller. Buster Olney's talked about Felipe Vasquez so much on his podcast in terms of him bringing back a big haul. They're not trading Josh Bell. He's a franchise player. But if I'm the Pirates, I try to go for it. I trade Will Craig to get something like a bigger fish, like a pitcher. Can Will Craig fetch you Madison Bumgarner? Maybe. Can he fetch you Robbie Ray? Maybe. Can he fetch you Marcus Stroman? I think that would be a great ad. Marcus Stroman would be a great fit in Pittsburgh in my mind. With their pitching staff, I think Stroman would thrive in Pittsburgh. And although Chris Archer's been a disappointment, I don't know if Marcus Stroman would be a disappointment in Pittsburgh. The National League West. The Dodgers, we know they need two relievers. They blew that last night's game against the Phillies. Kenley Jansen has not really been the Kenley Jansen from a few years ago. They need some insurance. They need to overpay for somebody. They might have to give up Will Smith or one of the other young catcher that they have to get one of those relievers. I don't think they'll get another bat because I think they're set offensively. They're set pitching-wise unless they think that Rich Hill won't be healthy and they prefer Kenta Maeda in the pen. I wouldn't rule it out that being a starter, but I just don't think they'll get an ace type of starter. I think that they could get like a mediocre type of guy to round out that rotation if they have some fears about Rich Hill. But they need two relievers. Maybe Tony Watson of the Giants, but again, I just don't see them trading with the Giants. I don't see them getting Will Smith either. Like I said, they're not trading with the Giants. That's like the Mets trading with the Yankees. Although the Cubs and the White Sox made a big trade together, but that's weird that they did that. That really did catch me by surprise when Catan went there. But I just don't see Farzan Zaidi trading with his former team. That's the other factor in the Dodgers-Giants trading with each other thing, especially with them within division. Although they're rivals. That's like the Yankees and the Red Sox trading, not really the Yankees and the Mets. The Yankees and the Mets trading is like the Dodgers and the Angels trading, which that's happened before, and so has the Cubs and the White Sox. But that's like the Cubs and the Cardinals trading, Yankees and the Red Sox trading. I just don't see those two teams trading. Maybe Ken Giles for the Dodgers. That would be interesting, although he's had some famous meltdowns in the postseason before in some big games against the Yankees and stuff, so I just don't see Ken Giles as a fit there. Felipe Vasquez, to me, is the perfect guy for them. So I would try to overpay to get him if I'm the Dodgers. And Shane Green's another interesting one. Derek mentioned Shane Green yesterday. I think he'd be a great Dodger as well. The Rockies looks like they'll be in sell mode. I can see anybody on that team being moved except for Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story. I won't be flabbergasted if he's moved, but I think they'd wait until the offseason to potentially do that because I think they love Brandon Rogers and think that he's the shortstop of the future unless they put him at second, Story at short, and then obviously Nolan Arenado at third. But they have that prospect, Colton Welker, who's being blocked by Arenado, so that's the case for them being a buyer, using him as a trade chip to go out and get a Zach Wheeler. I think that would be an overpay for Zach Wheeler, but I've just used his name as an example. But if the Rockies were to be a buyer, they need pitching because all their guys have pretty much regressed this year, except John Gray has really improved this year. So they need a starter, but if they were to sell, I can see them trading like Scott Oberg, John Gray. I don't see them moving Daniel Murphy because they just signed him. Ian Desmond, I think they're dying to get rid of, even though he hit a big home run for them last night. San Francisco, we talked about Madison Bumgarner already enough. Will Smith, I think, will demand a lot. Evan Longoria has been hot already of late, but he's on the injured list, so that really killed his trade value. I think the Giants wanted to get rid of him. I think anybody on that team could be had, really, except for Buster Posey. Diamondbacks, I think, will be a seller. Adam Jones, David Peralta, Zach Greinke, Robbie Ray, some of their relievers I think could be had. I think the only untouchable really on that team is Christian Walker. And I'm not even positive that Jake Lamb's even a keeper at this point, because he really hasn't lived up to expectations in Arizona. Padres, I can see them doing a mixture of both. In terms of a buyer, I think they could use a starter. They have a big loaded farm system that I think that they could use to go out and get like a Matt Boyd or a Noah Syndergaard. I don't see them trading within division with the Diamondbacks for Robbie Ray or Zach Greinke or Madison Bumgarner for the Giants. But I think that the Padres are an interesting candidate to be a buyer, even though they're not really in it per se. They're under 500 and whatnot. But don't forget, they did sign Manny Machado this past winter, and they didn't sign him to be a sub-500 team, so we'll see if they go for it. But if they sell, there's talks about Hunter Renfroe being available. He'll take a lot to get because he's having a good season. I think that Austin Hedges could be had because I think they're high on Francisco Mejia long-term. And another guy that I think could be had is Manuel Margot. Franmil Reyes, I heard, available too. That's interesting. That guy's having a good year on the Padres as well. All right, that's enough trade talk. Best bet of the day. I'm going to do it very quickly. Brought to you by FanDuel. There's a couple games in baseball that I really, really like today. So I'll just parlay some favorites and we'll call it a day. All right. The favorites I like today are the Rockies, ironically enough, because John Gray's pitched a lot better. Homer Bailey in his debut for the A's. I think he'll pitch well. Going with the Yanks and Domingo Germán. I'm going to go with the Nats on the road in Baltimore. I'm going to go with the Indians at home against the Tigers. I'm going to go with the Padres tonight against the Marlins. Chris Paddock's return. I think he'll pitch well. Eduardo Rodriguez and the Sox against the Blue Jays. And I'm going to go with the Astros tonight in LA against the Angels. That's 8 teams. 25.81 odds, wagering $1, paid of $26.81. That's it for the podcast today. I'm going to continue to do the prospect checkups throughout the day. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about baseball and whatnot, maybe more trade deadline stuff. We'll see. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.